All right, it's the last one of the year. We're not going to be doing chapter 16, obviously, in this class. So, chapter 15, the food policy one, is going to be the last video that I actually put out, at least wrap up wise. I'll probably put out another short video discussing instructions for your final exam, but other than that, that's pretty much it. So, let's kind of jump back in right into it. Let's make this one a quick one, too. So, I know that we're at the end of the semester and it's like, wow, like food policy should be a little bit more important than what we actually make it out to be. Sad thing is since there's so many bigger issues in politics, this kind of is like an afterthought. But yeah, some of the conversation that comes around is like, is ketchup a vegetable? Are too many people getting food stamps? And should the government be the food police? So, should they be the ones saying, oh, you shouldn't be having vegetable oil or red 40 or, all these other things that should and should not maybe be in your diet. Okay. You should know what government's role is when it comes to food. They need to provide enough food and make sure that food is safe for you guys. So making sure there's no disease outbreaks, any recalls, things like that. Usually we see this a lot more, um, mainly because we've switched over to a lot of major corporations producing our food. Okay, but once again, this is kind of like one of the background things that we um, look at when it comes to policy because there's bigger problems like crime, national security, immigration, and healthcare. But this is supposed to be pretty important to us because remember, this is directly tied to our health. Here's the food pyramid. You guys have seen this as you guys have kind of grown up. I want to tell you guys there's a lot of misconceptions on here. I could rant about this all day. Like, it's kind of weird that we drink milk. Like, someone looked at the cow and was like, hey, that stuff looks good. We should drink out of that. And it's not really all that natural for us to be drinking. And I'm not saying milk isn't good for you. It can be good for you, but just remember, milk doesn't build strong bones. Like, it's misconceptions when it comes to food. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. No, breakfast is a made up meal. Like, most of us can probably get away with skipping breakfast in the morning. And if you do opt to eat breakfast, you probably should be opting for something that is high in protein that's going to keep you full for most of the day. And don't overload on carbs and sugar like you would eating a bunch of waffles or pancakes or cereal. So, some things to kind of consider when you're looking at this. Then obviously everyone has their own preferences, what types of foods they like, they dislike, allergies, that all plays a role as well. When it comes to vegetables and fruits, most vegetables are kind of pointless if they're not like green vegetables. Fruits too, there's only a couple that you can maybe say that are actually essential towards your diet. I usually say when it comes to fruits, it has to be something that's rich in antioxidants, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. When it comes to vegetables, any leafy greens, spinach, broccoli, usually the best things that you can get. One of the worst fruits you can get due to pesticides being sprayed on them is actually strawberries. I want to say, I don't think I have that video in the module. I do have a video though, a couple videos discussing like why you should be cleaning your fruit and vegetables, and I don't really know how many of us are actually properly cleaning them that way. But just once again, some things to consider when it comes to diet. When it comes to cooking oils, you guys have probably seen Santa Cruz on your Instagram or on your TikTok discussing, what people should be cooking with, and red 40. The vegetable oil is like the worst stuff you can cook with. Peanut oil, soybean oil, there's a lot better things like, grass-fed butter, beef tallow, avocado oil, and olive oil. So just some things. It's kind of hard for me. I can make this video 20 minutes long talking just about food because I typically have a good amount of, I guess, knowledge in this field since it directly relates to health. So I care a lot about it because of, my habits when it comes to going to the gym. This is just a question that we would normally go over class, talking about whether or not uh, do you guys eat more home cooked meals or are you guys eating out a lot? Make sure when you go to college, be aware the freshman 15 is a thing because students choose to start eating out a little bit more or they also become less active. Okay, so cherish those home cooked meals that you have right now. Hopefully you guys can learn how to cook, but remember it can be tough in college when you're living out on your own. Cost of groceries obviously gets thrown in there. Then also if you're living in the dorms, not really going to be the easiest for you to cook. Okay. Also, a couple other things. This will probably be the last little advice to give to you guys. When it comes to weight, try to find like a healthy weight for you. So obviously, don't be overweight. That's one of the extremes. The other one is don't be underweight. Okay. Try to find this good little medium where it's easier for you to maintain your weight and you feel good about your body. Okay. Like for me, when I gain a little bit too much weight, I don't just feel physically slow. I feel mentally slow. And then when I lose too much weight, actually starts messing with my hormones, and I start becoming a little bit more irritable. So, and on top of that, obviously, I'm gonna lose out on a bunch of strength. So, kind of find like this little 10-pound range where you can eat and you're not really stressing about it. You can work out, you're not really too stressed about it, and it's a good weight to maintain for you. Everyone, it's gonna be a little bit different. And then obviously, I usually talk about BMI. BMI's trash. It throws height in comparison to your weight. You could be have a BMI that's maybe bad for you, but it doesn't mean necessarily mean you're an unhealthy person. Your body gives you really good indications on whether or not you're healthy or not. Your blood work as well. So, there's a couple things, life advice for you guys. Okay. Now, is food a public or a private good? You should know the second and fourth line are the most important. So, know how many percentage of households are food insecurity. Food insecurity is when people don't know when their next meal is going to come from, or they actually have to skip meals. Okay. This number actually increases with students. So once again, when you guys are in college, I would encourage you guys to actually apply for food stamps. A lot of you guys will actually get some type of assistance there, or utilize the food pantries and food banks on campus. A lot of schools they're gonna have these on campus. They're there for you to use. Don't feel embarrassed. It's better that you're getting some type of nutrition. Um, instead of stressing yourself out when it comes to breaking the bank and supplementing your guys' health. One other thing, since we're on this slide as well, when it comes to food stamps, obviously that's been in the news quite a bit. People are gonna have to go back and reapply because it turns out people are maybe getting a little bit too much benefits from it, or they're kind of misusing the system. The other thing is like, what should people be able to spend their food stamps on? Like, are they spending this on food that is actually supplementing their health, or are they spending it on stuff like, soda, or like places like Little Caesars, Burger King, Carl's Jr., like they all take EBT. Like, is it really okay for taxpayer money that's being used to feed people should be going to them spending it on junk food? A lot of people don't agree with that. But just something to also kind of remember, make sure that these are conversations that come out with government and when it comes to food. Obviously, America at some point has always been trying to promote a diet. They promoted this diet a lot more back during World War One because we wanted to be the healthier country because we thought it directly correlated with us winning the war. That's when you look back in a lot of pictures, you'll see a lot more people were at healthier weights. Everyone was kind of eating, well, first off, they were eating a lot better food because there wasn't as much trash in it, like artificial dyes and stuff like that. And they weren't really cooking in seed oils, and people also were more active. Like, I know your guys' PE classes have changed. Back then, a lot more students were able to do pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, and also finish a mile within under 8 minutes. Okay. Um, I want to say I seen a study. It was a few years ago. I don't know if this number's been updated, but it was like over 50% of our active military members are actually overweight. So it's not just the normal day-to-day citizens that are having issues when it comes to health. It's also our military as well, which can actually be a bad thing for us. These are just the Food Network. So who's involved in conversating over whether or not like what should be illegal and legal when it comes to our food. The main thing that has changed is farming, ranching, and food processing businesses because we've gotten to a lot more a lot more corporations are involved with food. So we see the producer, the consumer, environmental, public health, and interest groups are also involved because remember, food policy is directly also kind of correlated with our environment and our public health. Okay. This just has to do with your school lunches. So everyone likes to say Michelle Obama ruined your school lunches. They're not wrong. Lunch ladies actually used to cook. Um, Oh, one other thing I was going to talk about with the food insecurity before I keep going. Um, because the number increases with food insecurity, you don't need to know, it's just a fun fact. That is the reason why during COVID, schools were still giving out school lunches because they knew that some kids actually heavily depend on the meal that you guys get at school, whether it's the breakfast or the lunch. So, and they figured that it's okay that we still supplement these kids with lunch because we are hoping that they get at least one good meal because we don't really know the financial situation that's going on at home, and it's there's a higher likeliness that they are going through some type of food insecurity. But back to this. School lunch days actually used to cook food, and a lot of the stuff that you guys get now is a lot of freezer stuff. Okay, like just reheated stuff. And obviously they're going based off the food pyramid to supplement like what you should not be having for your lunch. They messed with the portion sizes. Senator Roberts at the time was actually very concerned with this and said this is actually going to do a disservice when it came to meeting the needs of active students. And most students, by the way, are actually pretty active. And I'm not saying active like all of you guys are athletes on campus. More the sense that you guys are in the stage of your lives where you guys are getting over 10 to 15,000 steps a day easily. Okay. Some of you guys are working out, some of you guys are in sports, some of you guys are in FFA, walking around on the farm, like you guys that live active lifestyles. And it doesn't really make too much sense to kind of cut out some of the energy that you're getting from school. And some of these things there's concerned with, like, student plate waste, increased costs, and not providing enough calories, okay? I actually think you guys overeat now because now you're not getting enough food at school. So what are you guys going to do? You're either going to eat off campus and you're not really going to choose a healthy option because you're going to opt for fast food, or you're going to have somebody bring you food, or you guys are going to bring snacks to school. And it's not like, I don't know how many kids are like in first period, snacking on like a peanut butter sandwich and bananas because you guys would rather have like, a brisk or something, or in Arizona and you have hot Cheeto fingers and it's not even 10 a.m. So kind of some concerns that Senator Roberts had. Our school lunches used to be a lot better, and it's a lot of it's prepackaged. Once again, some weird things that we want to talk about when it comes to lunch, like why are they giving you guys chicken sandwich with milk, spaghetti with milk? Like you guys should be getting supplemented with stuff like water. And then when you guys get juice, it's mainly sugar, so it's like that's not really a healthy alternative for you guys either. So even though they try to make school lunch, breakfast meals healthier for you, there's still some kind of concerns like why are we giving you guys prepackaged freezer stuff? The fruits that they're giving you in the cups and stuff is loaded with sugar rather than giving you guys more fresh fruit. Obviously, fresh fruit's going to be more expensive because there's going to be waste because some of it will go bad. There's a lot of issues when it comes to this though. And but you should know kind of when this change occurred and what were the concerns that Senator Roberts had, and he was right about it. Now, the Department of Agriculture, you should know the USDA's dual mission statement and know the Green Revolutionary, okay? Now, the Department of Agriculture was created in 1889. Dual mission, okay? One was to promote American agriculture, the other one was to promote a healthy diet. Now, your textbook talks about the U.S. Department of Agriculture actually working with Domino's because Domino's was terrible when it came to selling pizza. So they developed a pizza that had 40% more cheese. Now, you would say the U.S. Department of Agriculture teamed up with them to promote American agriculture, which is dairy products. Okay, I don't think we can ever argue that a pizza with 40% more cheese is actually promoting a healthy diet, which is why the U.S. Department of Agriculture, their mission statement actually conflicts with itself at times. Okay, obviously this Department of Agriculture was made to kind of look at the interest when it comes to agriculture, and then also serve as this clientele agency to kind of promote that, hey, like, agriculture is important because we're feeding the world, and we like to say that here in the Central Valley. The Food and Drug Administration, once again, another commission that has kind of played a role in discussing like what should and should not be in your food, hormones, antibiotics, how animals are treated, what should be banned, how things need to be labeled, like vegan, calorie, like all stuff that you need to be concerned with because the FDA hasn't done the best job at this, okay? And a lot of us aren't really too big on looking at the back of the label to see, what's in our food. We're not looking at ingredients. We're not looking at serving sizes. Like serving size for a lot of chips is like 13 chips. Are you guys sitting there counting like how many Doritos are going in your mouth? Probably not, right? You get a bag of M&Ms and you think, "Oh yeah, it's the small bag. It's one serving size." No, that is actually two serving sizes in there and you just ate 800 calories right now. Obviously other countries they do a little bit better of a job. Like if you go to Mexico, they have it like big old letters in the front like warning, this is excessive in sodium, this is excessive in fat, there's excessive calories in here. We don't have that here in America, so companies are able to get away with it, and it's because the Food and Drug Administration isn't getting these people in trouble. Or when stuff is like grass fed or cage free, you really should look at how they define that because it's not what you would truly think is cage free, or things aren't 100% vegan. So they find loopholes on how to promote the products. Obviously, they don't want to tell you everything that's in there because they don't want to lose out on money. There's a couple things that your textbook talks about when it comes to food safety, actually, and have a very good module that talks about like legally what is allowed in your food, like how much feces can actually be in the factory where this food is coming from, how many insect legs can get grinded up in like these canned foods, because there's a legal amount of what can be in your food and what can't be in your food. But they talk about the 10-part study when it comes to Harvey Washington Wiley that talks about the additives and chemicals in your food, a nation's food supply. This is your red 40, your artificial colorings, your natural preserved, all of that. Okay. The other thing was this book called The Jungle and talked about the unsanitary conditions of factories, okay, and actually farming as well. And it talks about, how they're in this meat packing plant and they're grinding up bugs and rats and workers aren't washing their hands, and this food is going out to the public. And this is a lot of times why we have recalls or we have issues with, like, I guess, cleanliness when it comes to food. So stuff that still happens today, but you should check out that module. It talks about all the disgusting stuff that's legally allowed into your food. Interest groups, okay? A lot of the interest groups you see now that advocate against your guys' health are going to be these big consumer companies. So Coca-Cola, Mars, Hershey, they're going to oppose government foster farms. They're going to oppose regulation of food because they want to incentivize profit. You've been seeing a lot of these countries having to backtrack on this because obviously we're banning stuff like food dyes and food. So, like, you guys probably see in the news, the new hot Cheetos are going to come out and they're not going to be red anymore. Frito-Lay has come and changed in the Lays and taken out, or now they're making stuff with making it with real potatoes now, okay? And you're like, why weren't they making it with real potatoes before? They didn't really care. They wanted to incentivize profit. They're trying to make more money. But obviously, public health is going to be advocating for your guys' health. You shouldn't be over consuming fat, salt, and sugar. And we kind of we're worried that, or these consumer, or I mean, these big corporations are worried that we're going to start treating sugar the way that we treat tobacco and alcohol and start adding more of this tax on it, or we're going to make it harder for people to actually get their hands on this. Because obviously they're trying to make the most amount of money as possible, and they make money off you guys having addictions to these products and kind of putting your health at as a secondary. Okay. Another thing is too, if you are one of the people that crave a sweet treat every single night, congrats, you have a sugar addiction. Your body is now used to you giving it a certain amount of sugar every single day. And what will happen over time, just like the same thing as when it comes to like a caffeine addiction, you're going to have to up the dosage, okay, which is not healthy. Also, caffeine is not the safest for you either. Usually I go on a rant on that, but this video is almost going to get to 20 minutes and I want to kind of finish it off. Um, it just comes when it comes to marketing food. Remember, private companies are always going to market their food. They don't obviously always care when it comes to health. They're trying to get their product out there, though. Also, when it comes to marketization of food, they also have to make sure that they lobby. Okay, so when we talked about interest groups, these corporations are also interest groups as well because they want to make sure that politicians are not banning stuff that is making them profit or maybe raising the price on certain products. Okay, that can affect their supply. This is just the price of food, how it's increased over time. People always make the argument it's so much more expensive to eat healthier. I would say that used to be true. I think it's changed now though. I think there's no big difference between you actually buying stuff in bulk and meal prepping throughout the whole week. Okay, obviously it's not. It's harder when you get older. Like you guys will understand this when you move out. Like you'll get home after a long day, you go to the gym, school, work, whatever it is, and then you'll be like, damn, I still have to cook dinner. I forgot to defrost the chicken. In and out doesn't sound that bad. Pizza wouldn't be that bad. And that's fine every now and then, but in the long run, that's not the best for your health. Also, might not be the best cost wise because typically, now at least if you're buying in, shopping in bulk, you can actually save a lot more money eating healthier. Okay. Um, Back then though, it's been a little bit different, but more people do tend to eat out more. We have stuff like DoorDash, Uber Eats, and this is what causes people. Your textbook doesn't talk about that, but it's a big reason why people just stay indoors and they're like, oh, I'm not gonna cook, or I'm not even gonna go leave my house to go get the food anymore. I'm just gonna have it come straight to my door. Your text just talks about how, on average, the household budget on food has steadily declined. It turns out though in 2005 that number has rose because a lot more people are choosing to eat out. Couple reasons for this is obviously we have women who are working now, so women are employed outside the home. So rather than being stay-at-home moms and having meals ready, they're working as well. So because of that, they also have more cash flow. Okay, so that's number two. And higher incomes means that you have more disposable income. You can spend a lot more money on purchasing food outside the home, sitting down eating at restaurants. We have more affordable products, okay, and more convenient. So fast food is a little bit cheaper than sitting at a restaurant. Before it was mainly restaurants, so fast food wasn't really on every single corner like you see in most towns. And then obviously the DoorDash, the Uber Eats, that makes it even more convenient because now people can just stay at home rather than making that little 5 minute drive, going through the drive-through. So it's become even more convenient. I could be sitting right here and I could have a pizza coming on the way, and you guys wouldn't even know. I don't though because I actually having carnitas for dinner. But increase of advertising and promotion when it comes to large food service chains. A lot of you guys have these apps on your phone. They know when it's lunchtime. They know when it's breakfast. They know when you are looking at the app and you're feeling kind of hungry. They have point systems. that promotion right there is gonna get you to go back in those apps and order stuff, And I always think it's kind of funny, like, when you see someone's phone, you see the notifications talk about it's like, hey, late night cravings, or they have Wingstop notifications, little like I think it's very funny because they know when you are in the app, when you are hungry, when you typically choose to eat out, whether that's on the weekends only. It's funny though. So, commercials don't play as big of a role. I think I think it's a lot of the ads that you see on social media and also these apps on your phone. The other thing is too, smaller size of United States households. It is a lot more expensive for you to eat out with a big family. Okay, if it's just one, two, three, smaller family like that, a lot cheaper for you to eat out. Still expensive, but there's a reason as to why more people are eating out because there's smaller households. And that is going to conclude chapter 15. So hope you guys enjoyed it this semester. I will drop one more video discussing the final exam. But if this is the last video you watch, it was a pleasure having you this semester. Hope you guys have a good winter break.